Hello and welcome to my video on basic pigeon destringing. This is a video that's going to be covering on-site destringing, so a site where you have a flock and you're grabbing a pigeon and quickly cutting the string off and then releasing them at the same time, not more complex rehab. This is a very important form of destringing as early cases can be caught and they won't have to experience any amount of months of pain or toe loss. So this is very important work, just as much as the more complicated rehab. So what is Stringfoot? Stringfoot is caused by string or hair getting very tightly wrapped around a bird's feet, so it cuts off circulation, eventually leading to toe loss or even whole foot loss. This can mean months of pain as it cuts deeper and deeper, pressing on the nerves. Stringfoot happens in pigeons mainly because they are ground feeders. They don't spend a lot of time up in perches in the trees like other birds. They walk along the ground. They also are totally reliant on humans for their survival because they're descended from abandoned domestic birds. This means they're spending a lot of time among our trash where they're more likely to collect that kind of string and hair. The good thing is anyone can destring a pigeon. It only takes a few seconds to minutes, and you're sparing them from those months of pain. So if you're thinking about it, I strongly encourage you to get started.
Here I can show you the very simple kit I put together. Everyone kind of makes their own kit. What you absolutely need are nail scissors, very sharp scissors because a lot of times the hair is bound super tight. You need to really get in there. And tweezers are often very helpful, so you kind of work unwinding them and cutting them at the same time. Then you also need styptic powder because sometimes you are gonna break skin, which is okay. You don't panic. This stuff works crazy good. You just dab the littlest bit on, bleeding instantly stops. So don't panic if blood happens. Then you need an antimicrobial. I use Vetericyn Wound Care. They don't say, it's annoying, they just say wound care, but it's for all animals. You can check if it's bird safe by the little bird icon. This is, I spray it on no matter what. Sometimes when you take off string, it re-exposes old wounds or it's already infected, so you just want to make sure you're not leading to more infection. Even if I don't see anything, just spray it to be safe, honestly. And yes, birdseed, lots of birdseed to attract the pigeons. And everyone has their own method for this. Pigeons are obviously terrified when you grab them. I know a lot of people use the sock methods. They get big old socks to put the pigeons in. I use a pillowcase because I worry about the constriction of the pigeons, so you kind of feel that up to you. But you want to cover their heads because as long as they can't see, they're going to be a lot calmer and a lot less squirmy. So that is, that's kind of the basic of your kit. People have different things. Some people bring hand sanitizer on spot. There's myths about pigeons and disease spreading. You're very unlikely. Even bird flu, they're not carriers of bird flu. You're more likely to get a disease from the chicken you buy at the grocery store than a pigeon. But obviously, because you're dealing with, open wounds, you're going to want to wash your hands afterwards. So you can bring hand sanitizer on the face if you want. But those are, I would say, the absolute essentials. Made the mistake when I started out of just trying to catch any lone pigeon I saw, but that's really hard. What you want to do is make sure they're penned in by a flock. So you find a flock space. Here, probably this park is great. Pioneer Square, yeah, they're waiting. Pioneer Square is also a great spot. There's different locations around Portland. Some of them, these are really tame guys. They come right up on my lap. They land on me and my girlfriend's shoulders. Not all pigeons are that tame. If your flock isn't coming right up to you, you just got to feed them routinely. They'll start to trust you. They still have those domestic instincts, so they'll learn to trust. So what you're gonna see, they're gonna come in, they're all gonna be hemming in together, stepping on each other to get the seed, and that's when you're gonna wanna look at their feet. Sometimes it's really obvious. You're gonna see obvious string and hair on them. Other times it's more subtle. If you see any irregular grooves, dark grooves in their feet, or they're limping or hobbling, that probably means they're Stringfoot. It's okay if you're not sure. I would recommend just catching them because you just let them go if you are.
Catching a pigeon can be very intimidating. I messed up many times before I managed to start catching them, and even experts often fail. So don't worry if it's really hard when you're starting out. When you're feeding a flock, you want to scatter the seed very close to you so they start coming over. If it's not a very trusting flock, you may have to come several times over time to gain their trust. But once you have a sizable flock, you look for the stringfoot and wait until they're hemmed in by several other pigeons. That way they can't easily fly away. Then, when you're ready, you want to quickly but firmly grab the pigeon and pin their wings with a motion like this. You pick them up with keeping their wings pinned and bring them to your chest. You then take your sock or pillowcase and cover their head with it. If they can't see, they're going to be a lot calmer and easier to keep secured. Keeping their wings pinned, make sure their feet are out and accessible, and then you can begin the destringing process. If you find a pigeon that's already been very damaged by Stringfoot, where a toe's very infected or swollen, they're limping, you need to assess whether they may need to have more care than an on-site destringing. You don't want to do this lightly because usually a pigeon will have a mate, and this will cause a lot of emotional stress to them if separated, as they mate for life. And even worse, they may have babies that are at risk of starvation without another parent there to feed them. But if a pigeon clearly has their quality of life severely impacted, they're having trouble getting around, they're in pain, you will want to contact a local rehabber. In Oregon, unfortunately, there are laws that wildlife rehab centers cannot rehabilitate non-native species. Pigeons are not actually, you don't require a permit to rehab a pigeon. You can just rehab them because they are still domestic birds, they're just feral. But the Bird Alliance of Oregon, unfortunately, does not direct people to these rehabbers. They kill any pigeons that come in by default, no matter their condition. So it's very important to not take them to the Bird Alliance of Oregon. Instead, you can find freelance rehabbers in the area on PDX Pigeon Lovers Facebook group. If you're not in Oregon, you're going to need to check your own states or areas laws around rehabbing and if they're actually going to help or not, and who to check with. Thank you for watching. I hope this gave you a good basic overview of pigeon destringing. It is an intimidating process, as I've said before, and really the way to learn is to get started. So go out there, befriend some pigeons, and good luck.